We turn now to Gaza, where journalism itself has come under direct fire. At least 6 journalists were killed in a single Israeli airstrike last weekend, among them 2 Al Jazeera correspondents. Israel says the journalists were linked to Hamas, claims Al Jazeera and media watchdogs firmly deny. Jodie Ginsberg from the Committee to Protect Journalists joins us now to talk about this. Thanks for being here, Jodie.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with the numbers. Your organization reports at least 192 journalists killed in Gaza since the start of the war. How does this compare to other conflicts you've tracked, and what stands out most to you?
Well, this is without a shadow of a doubt the deadliest conflict for journalists that the Committee to Protect Journalists has ever documented. We've been doing this work for more than 30 years. 192 journalists have been killed since the start of the war, 190 of those journalists killed by Israel, and 184 of them are Palestinians killed in Gaza. So that makes it by far and away the most deadly conflict for journalists, reporters, media workers that we've ever experienced.
Well, the Israeli military says some of the journalists it has targeted were affiliated with Hamas. Does CPJ investigate such claims?
We, to the best of our ability, investigate those claims, but of course we don't have access to the material that the Israeli authorities have. That said, we have seen a pattern, not just in this war, but in previous decades, of Israel accusing journalists of being terrorists and then providing almost no credible evidence. And what's important to remember, particularly in the case that we're discussing today, so the killing of 6 journalists last Sunday by Israel, Israel is only claiming that one of those journalists is a terrorist. It's provided some evidence that experts do not consider to be credible. No one is able to verify that evidence independently. But Israel has offered no explanation for why it saw fit to kill the other 5 journalists. And journalists, important to state, in a war are considered civilians. Civilians must never be targeted in war. They are meant to be protected. And to deliberately target civilians, to deliberately target journalists, constitutes a war crime.
So how do you balance protecting press freedom with national security concerns in conflict zones?
Well, they have many, many years of experience. Journalists have many years of experience doing this. Typically, of course, journalists from outside are also able to come in and help to verify what local reporters are documenting and reporting. That's not been the case in this war. Not a single foreign journalist has been allowed independent access to Gaza since the start of the war. And as with the killings, that is unprecedented. You speak to any foreign correspondent, anyone who's covered wars over the last few decades, and they would say the same thing. It's unheard of that there should be no access whatsoever to outside media for such a long period of time.
Well, international media have largely been barred from Gaza, aside from Israeli escorted visits. So how has that shaped the risk to local reporters, and does it make accountability harder?
It increases the risk exponentially, and of course it makes accountability harder. It's incredibly difficult to investigate during an ongoing war. But accountability has also been extremely difficult because of the lack of emphasis on the importance of the protection from journalists that we've seen from international governments. We've seen international governments talk about the importance of press freedom, but we've seen very little concrete action from governments in holding Israel to account, in ensuring that Israel upholds its duty under international humanitarian law to protect journalists.
So how can this problem be addressed from your perspective?
Well, there's a number of ways that this can be addressed. Of course, one is to allow international media access into Gaza. The second is for governments worldwide to ensure that Israel is upholding its duties to protect journalists. We need to see more action. Germany has, in fact, called out Israel over the latest killings and demanded an explanation. We need to see more of that, and we need to see Israel provide that evidence and that explanation. We need to see much more concrete action through things like trade treaties. The European Union, for example, we've been pressing for some time for the European Union to suspend its trade agreement with Israel because of the violations we've seen of human rights. There are concrete things that governments can do now to support journalists, not least to push for those journalists inside Gaza to be allowed out so that they can receive medical treatment and the respite they so desperately need after 2 years nearly of constant reporting in the deadliest conflict for journalists that we know.
Okay, Jodie, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
That's Jodie Ginsberg from the Committee to Protect Journalists.